In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. As we do every show here in the month of February, we will start off with a reflection of Black history. Tonight, we will do a reflection on Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black history, believed that people who know their history become unshakable. He understood that knowledge is not just power, it is protection, affirmation, and liberation. Woodson fought to ensure that Black stories, Black brilliance, and Black contributions would never again be erased or minimized. His legacy reminds us that documenting our truth is an act of resistance, teaching our truth is an act of empowerment, living our truth is an act of freedom. Tonight, we honor the life and work of Dr. Robert Worthington. We stand firmly in Woodson's lineage, lifting up a man who embodies the spirit of scholarship, service, and self-determination. So I appreciate you guys for letting us start with this. And now I will get here into the show as we start our introduction. Welcome to another powerful episode of America in Black and White, where we explore the stories, the struggles, and triumphs that shape our communities and our country. Tonight's conversation is special. We're joined by a man whose life bridges precision and purpose, a man who navigates the skies by day and guides young people by heart. Dr. Robert Worthington is not only a seasoned aeronautical data analyst, ensuring the safety and efficiency of our airspace, he is also a mentor, author, community builder, and advocate for holistic youth development. His work reminds us that brilliance is not one-dimensional, it is layered, lived, and shared. From the basketball court to the consulting room, from the pages of his writing to the technical world of aeronautical data, Dr. Worthington has committed himself to elevating others. And in the spirit of Black History Month, he draws inspiration from giants Malcolm X and the Tuskegee Airmen, whose courage, discipline, and clarify of purpose continue to shape his mission. Tonight we honor his journey. Tonight we honor his impact. Tonight we honor the legacy he is building. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Robert Worthington, sir, we welcome you to the show.
Hey, good evening, Mr. King. How are you doing?
I am doing just excellent, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for that fantastic introduction.
Well, I appreciate that. And also, I appreciate you coming back to the show.
Had a great time last time. It was a great interview. I enjoyed it. Got some great feedback from family and friends, and wanted to come back and speak with you again.
Can you, before we get started, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we start?
Again, as you said in the introduction, I'm always trying to engage in the community. I think American in Black and White is a great presentation of that, keeping people informed, making sure we know what's happening, having incredible speakers and stuff appearing regularly, and entertaining, and not only entertaining, but educating people and keeping us in the know.
Yes, sir. And so what I like to do is in starting the show, I like to get start off where I give people the opportunity to get to learn a whole lot more about who you are, how Dr. Worthington got to be Dr. Worthington. So, can you tell us what early experiences shaped the disciplined and purpose driven person you are today?
Um, I would again. I have such a huge, long history in sports. I would have to say the failure and the successes in athletics, mostly basketball. Those early lessons have guided my life. I've used them for motivation. I've used them as inspiration, and that never give up, never quit, always compete attitude and stuff. I apply it to everything I do in life.
To you and help you see your potential.
I didn't catch that question. It was at the end, the beginning of it.
Growing up, who were the people who poured into you and helped you see your potential?
Well, it starts at home. My mother was a hardworking woman. She gave us the spirit of, you work hard, you earn all the things you have. There's no excuse for hard work. So that was initially the background and the baseline of where that started at. My older brother was an inspiration for me. He was a fantastic student. He was a great athlete. And I always tried to inspire to catch him and be as good as he was at those things. Some of the guys in the neighborhood that were older, they took a liking to me, took me under their arms and helped guide me and keep me in the right directions. And as I got into school years, there were teachers and coaches throughout my life that have had a positive impact on me.
What was the moment you realized you wanted to pursue a career connected to aviation?
Well, growing up, one of the things we used to do is being in Orlando, Florida, was take a drive to the international airport, and we would sit on the side of the road and watch the airplanes come in, and they would land. Had never been on a plane at that time, and it would probably be years later. I think I was 21 the first time I took a flight on an airplane. So I was fascinated by it. I was fascinated by the flights. I was fascinated by the pilots. I didn't know air traffic control at that time, but as I started watching and you start seeing some TV shows, you see some of the experiences and some of the careers. I wanted to be the person talking to the pilots. I wanted to be in control, telling them what to do. So I was fascinated by that, and the Air Force gave me an opportunity to do that.
Oh, wow. So just when you think about that and you're looking at, these planes doing the things that they do, the people that are operating the planes, and you're thinking how fascinating that is. Can you tell us what were you imagining or what were you seeing that made you want to get into aviation?
Right. I think that fascination was part fantasy and reality. The reality was sitting at that parking lot in the expressway and watching those planes fly over your head. And then when you watch a television show and you saw Star Trek or you saw any of these shows in space, you was like, wow, that's so cool. In that particular time, you don't get the habit of saying, what's the work that's required to do that? You just feel inspired to want to do it. It's something you want to do. Once you actually embark on the journey, it's very, very challenging. I recently spoke with some kids about the fact that don't let the fact that it's tough be a deterrent for wanting to do it. If it's something you're fascinated with, it's something that you have an interest in and you have a passion about, you have to pursue it. It may take some challenges for you to do so. It's going to take some commitment and dedication on your part to do it. But if you're passionate about it, why wouldn't you be doing something that you're passionate about to the best of your abilities?
Bringing influence your approach to leadership and service.
That beginning of that question cut out again.
How did your upbringing influence your approach to leadership and service?
Okay. Growing up with two brothers and a sister, my mom worked, so we had a chore list on the refrigerator, and you had to follow those chores and you had to do what you're supposed to do. We had rules about, you probably can relate to this, be home before the street light comes on. So you had to be, I love playing basketball at the park, and in other neighborhoods I would travel and go do those things, but I knew what time I had to be home. When I got home, I knew I had to do my homework. When I got home, I knew I had to do my chores. Those all laid the foundation and the groundwork saying there are things you're supposed to do and you have to do them. If my younger sister wouldn't do them, I would have to tell her to do them. Like my older brother would tell me. So it was almost that lineage of growing up and seeing this is the way things are doing, keeping that order of doing them and following those directions. it seemed natural and stuff to go into the military and follow that same path.
Oh wow. So, but with the aviation and and all those fascinations that you may have had with that, is that what drove you to the Air Force, or was the Air Force just one of those things that just happened?
Well, the Air Force was a choice. I'd always said I didn't want to go in the military. I grew up a military brat. My father was an Army veteran, so I didn't had an ID card my entire life. Military wasn't my choice. I was going to go to college and play college basketball, and like all the kids who play basketball, you're going to go to the NBA. That was the aspiration. That's what I wanted to do. But those are those lessons learning. How badly do you want to do that? Because then I got to college on a basketball scholarship, and I wasn't ready for that commitment, that freedom of having to make those choices. And I was so bad at it, I lost my scholarship.
Oh,
Because I wasn't performing my academics I was supposed to maintain my scholarship. I lost it. And it wasn't for a lack of I couldn't do the work. I just wasn't disciplined enough to do the work. That was a wake-up call for me. My basketball coach, again, because I was a good player, offered me the opportunity to just sit out for the rest of the year, and you could come back the following year. But I'm not a person that just sits around and not do things. At that point, I had befriended two guys that were Air Force recruiters. They had come out to the college, watched me play basketball, so I was friendly with them. We had talked about it, and it was like, I'm not really sure. And as we talked more and more about it, and then we got into the discussion of things I wanted to do, it seemed like a great choice. But it was only the Air Force, and that's what guided me and got me to enlist in the Air Force. And once I got there again, I knew what my passion was as far as being in something that was going to be in aviation. Not every Air Force job is aviation. You can do anything in the Air Force that you have in the civilian world. But I gravitated towards doing what my goals were.
personal challenges have most shaped your resilience?
I think that was the biggest one. Losing my basketball scholarship, it was embarrassing, first of all. It was disappointing. I was disappointed in myself. And I had to go back and do some serious soul searching and some serious thinking about, okay, what are you going to do? You can feel sorry for yourself. You can sit at home. You can get a regular hourly job that's not going to pay you a great salary, or you can challenge yourself to do something better and not have this experience again. So I did some reflection, and then that's when again I was talking to the Air Force recruiters. They were friends of mine, and I decided to make a career choice and go into the military. And I knew aviation was going to be tough. It's a very challenging career, and I was like, I didn't do well in academics, and I was like, okay, was it I'm not smart enough, or was I just not disciplined enough? I knew it wasn't that I wasn't smart enough, but it really made me focus, and I would just study and study and study and study to try to achieve the goal I wanted to have. And that's how I approached everything throughout every different degree I've attained. It was like, okay, I don't know if you're smart enough, but I know you can study hard enough. And that's how I pursued it.
What does success mean to you at this stage of your life?
At this stage in my life, success is being able to live the life I want to live, provide for my family. I have two college-age daughters, be a guidance for them, be an example for them, and to be able to just live life at your choices. I have choices to decide whether I want to continue to work, whether I want to continue to write, whether I want a vacation, I want to do some international travel this year. Those things I have the freedom to do at my choice when I decide to do them. That's success to me.
With all this up to this point, what actually made you more of the community person that you are?
Because I grew up in a community that was a community person. I mean, again, we grew up in the projects, and growing up in the projects, of course, you don't know that that's what you're living when you're living it. It's just where you live at. But everyone took ownership of you. You can walk down the street, and if you're walking across the street, the person next door or two doors down from you could tell you to do something, and you would do it. They would also take care of you. If your parents went home, your mom didn't get home to cook, you could come to my house to eat. So it was always that community of taking and helping you and providing for you and securing you. Also, as an athlete, you have that thing of being a teammate. I'm going to take care of my teammate. I'm going to watch my teammates back. And that was my background. That's how I grew up. That was my experience, and it's who I am.
It's your identity as a Black man shaped your journey in technical and academic spaces?
I think we spoke about this the previous time I was on the show, and I think I shared with you. I'm a huge Tuskegee Airmen fan, not just because they were great pilots, because they were great pilots and they were great aviators, but their determination, their resilience to not allow any challenges, no matter how unfair they were, to determine that they couldn't be successful. And I've tried to apply that to my life, both personally and professionally. There are going to be barriers sometimes. But a lot of times, if barriers are coming your way through ignorance, they're going to be put very, very low because that person is going to expect low of you. But if you're achieving high, it doesn't bother you. You just go over them. If it knocks you down, you get back up and you go over them again. And I prefer that method because it keeps me thriving. It keeps me feeling like I got to stay on my toes. And I'm always looking for that challenge. And that challenge is within myself to achieve the things I want to do. And I try to pass that message on to other kids and other young people as well.
If you had to think of one lesson, what is the one lesson you learned the hard way that you now teach others?
Failure to prepare is preparing to fail. That's what I learned when I lost my basketball scholarship. And again, it was devastating. I wrote about it in my book. It became like my North Star to all the things I've done since that time. Is that was my own fault. It wasn't anyone else's fault. There was no person trying to hold me back. It was me holding me back because of my lack of effort. So I've tried to pass that message on to young people. And I have people ask me the question about earning a doctorate and degree. And if it's hard. Yes, it's very hard to do, but it's not impossible to do. But it requires hard work.
The precision of your professional work with the emotional depth of your community work?
Okay, I missed that top of that question. Say that again.
How do you balance the precision of your professional work with the emotional depth of your community work?
Right. I think they go hand in hand. The precision is obviously because I have a 10-year career as an air traffic controller, and the things you did was life and death. It could have been a decision that you made that's life and death. So it's very, very important that your choices and the decisions you make, the elevations and the directions you give pilots to make a turn or to make a takeoff departure, those headings and those things you do have to be precise because lives are dependent on it. When you're dealing in a community, your emotional ties is that people don't really care if you told them something if they don't think that you care about them. So you have to be emotionally bonded to them and say, you know what, I'm doing these things for you. There's nothing coming back to me in return other than seeing you successful at what I'm trying to help you do. That emotional bond. I've had kids come back to me. I had a young man reach out to me a few months ago. I was helping a friend out who started a charter school and was teaching math and science in his school for him for two classes. And a young man that I hadn't talked to in maybe 10 years, he reached out to me, and I guess he said he got my number from another student and said that, hey, Mr. Worthington, I've been looking for you. And I was like, well, you could Google me. I'm easy to find. He goes, yeah, but I didn't know your first name. I was like, okay, well, but I talked to this guy. He gave me your name, and I wanted to talk to you. And I was like, okay, well, give me a call. He sent this in a text message to me. I said, give me a call. And he called me up, and he was like, do you remember me? And I said, I do. I remember you by your name, but he sent me a picture. I was like, I knew exactly who he was talking about, but now I put a face to it. I remember you. He goes, I just wanted to tell you something. You changed my life. And I'm like, what he like, when I was at that school, I had no direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Everybody thought you were so tough. Everybody was afraid of you. They was like, well, why were they afraid of me? I mean, because they respected me. That's not the same thing as fear. But he goes, no, they was like, Mr. Worthington, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble. He goes, so I wanted to do better so I wouldn't get in trouble with you. That was the first time I felt that way. And I was like, wow, Derek, I mean, thank you. I didn't know you felt that way because he was a kid that was always getting in trouble. So I was like, I didn't know you felt that way, but I'm glad whatever I said to you and whatever I did, whatever actions I did that you saw that you wanted to emulate, that it had a positive impact on your life. Because he goes, now I'm an actor. I'm doing commercials. I'm doing these different things. And I just wanted to thank you for that. And I was like, wow, I appreciate that. So those are the things that come back to you when you have those emotional ties in your community and you pour into people that you're not really expecting anything back other than their success, and it comes back to you in a way like that.
That in itself, as impactful as that is, and when you hear someone tell you how you impacted their lives,
Right.
how did that affect you?
Uh, it was initially, again, I was a little emotional about it because I was like, wow, I'm really happy that this young man found himself and he had some success because he's saying I'm an actor now. I was very, very happy to hear that. I felt good about it. I try to be a positive example. I try to tell young people things that I think are going to impact their lives in a positive way. You're hoping that you're going to have that impact, but you don't know if it's working or not. And then when you get confirmation when someone telling you, thank you, you saved my life. It's great. It's great affirmation that, I'm saying the right things. The message I'm delivering is being received by some people.
Do you hope to leave behind?
I hope to leave behind that message, the message that I want to have a positive impact on not only my family, but my community. I was willing to work hard at doing it and doing it in an honorable way. And I expect to live a life of an example. I don't have a problem with someone saying, hey, you told us to do this thing one way, but you're living your life another way. So I try to be the example that I tell you I want you to be as a person. So I'm very proud of that. And I've gotten that back to me. And I've had multiple people tell me that, like, I wasn't sure if you were going to do the things you say you're going to do, but you've done them. And I was like, okay. I mean, I hope that's a compliment, but okay, I'll take it that way, because sometimes you have people tell you they're going to do things and, it's just talk. It's just really just talk. And when you have those people who do things and they tell you, hey, this is what I want this for you. I want success for you. I want happiness for you. I want good health and all these things. You want to take them for the word that they mean those things for you. And when I say them to people, I mean them. And I hope to that, I get more of those telephone calls and more of those messages from young people saying, hey, you know what? You impacted my life.
Thanks you.
What motivates me? I like doing what I do. I mean, I like being an aviator. I'm probably going to transition into the consultant full time sometime soon now. But I've enjoyed the impact I've had speaking to young people, whether it's through a basketball program or through going in and talking to them about being an air traffic controller. That aspect of my life has been very rewarding and gratifying in the fact that I want to impact young people's lives because I had people impact my life when I was young.
Let's transition over to your work as an author, because as I listen to you mention and talk about your books and just the different things that elevated you as you were elevating in your life, can you tell us what inspired you to begin writing and what stories or messages drive your work?
Okay. The very first book that I published was In My Brother's Shadow. It's a memoir. And I was motivated by the fact that I was pursuing my doctorate degree and I was getting to, defining my why. Why am I pursuing this? Why this is important to me? And when you start defining your why, you start going on a personal reflection journey of yourself and seeing the things that impacted you and how they manufactured into what type of person you became. And doing that, I just got bit by this bug to tell certain stories. And In My Brother's Shadow story, I speak about just devastating things that happened to me. I go back to the time of, being raised by my grandmother and not with my brothers and sister. And then finally coming to Florida to live with them full time and the impact that my brother had on me as far as him being a fantastic basketball player and just an outstanding student. And from my time as a elementary school boy through middle school into high school, my brother was my North Star. He was the thing that I tried to pursue and I wanted to be like. And between my senior year in high school and my freshman year of college, he was arrested. First time he was ever in trouble. He was arrested. And how I found that story out was I was walking to go play basketball one Saturday morning. As I'm heading to the basketball court, a former basketball teammate stopped me and say, hey, man, you know what? I was taken to the police station last night. And I'm like, yeah, what's happening? He's like, yeah, they had me downtown and they had 4 other people downtown. And he rattled off these names. And the last name he said was your brother. To this day, I remember that so vividly because it felt like I pulled back from him and I'm floating back. The sky got dark. It was dark clouds. And it hit me like, what do you mean your brother? My brother's arrested. He's downtown. He goes, yeah. He goes, yeah. And as he's running off, he's leaving. I turn around. I walk back home. I don't go to the basketball court. And I don't remember walking the 3 or 4 blocks I walked to get back home. But once I got there, I was just like, I woken back up again. And that night on the 6 p.m. news, they made an announcement. They had arrested my brother for first-degree murder. That was 40 years ago. He's never gotten out of prison. Everywhere I've gone in the world, and I've traveled around the world, I've tried to take a moment to walk outside and look at places that I think he would want to see, and he's never going to get a chance to see those things. It changed my life. It made me know that the person that was always who I was running after to try to catch was no longer the person I was going to be in shadow. He was now going to be in my shadow, and hence the book's title, In My Brother's Shadow. So that was a very emotional book for me to write. But it told a personal story of understanding how none of us plan for tragedy, but sometimes it can happen. It can happen to how do you know? Sometimes we think, oh, it's a kid that's always in trouble in school, but here's a kid that wasn't in trouble in school. He was an A student. He was a star basketball player. And it was something that, obviously changed his life because he's gotten a life sentence in prison. And it changed my life because my older brother was no longer going to be there for me. So that was the first book I wrote. The second book I'm writing now, I should have been done with it, but a lot of things have happened since the last time we had the show. It kind of got a little bit behind. But it's a book called Flight Path, The Journey of a Black Air Traffic Controller. And that title is self-explanatory. And it was actually sparked by the fact that there was so much misinformation out there, prompted by statements from the person who sits in the White House. And it just wasn't true. It was unfair. It was degrading to have someone tell me that my work, as hard as I worked and all these long hours I stayed up working and studying, wasn't because I did those things. It was because of the color of my skin. I knew that wasn't true. So I thought about, I want to tell this story. I had this journey of going through one of the toughest careers you can have as an air traffic controller, and doing it not only getting through a very tough and challenging curriculum, but doing it as a man of color, knowing that someone else was going to think you don't deserve to be there. So I probably interviewed maybe 12 to 15, maybe 16 former coworkers that were air traffic controllers, male, female, black, white, and try to get their thoughts and their thoughts about what happened in just the years we spent together. And I think when the book comes out, it's going to be very impactful and very informational to people who think that this is an easy journey. So they're only going to give it to you because, DEI.
Yeah.
So that was the motivation for this next book.
Can tell us this, because as I'm listening to you, there's you can hear the passion, the inspiration, and the motivation in your voice. Have you ever took the time to sit back and ask yourself this question: why must I always be the only Black man in most of the spaces that you go to?
I haven't asked myself that question, but I've tried to take that path as when I've seen Black men or women in those spaces, I've always seen them there in those spaces in excellence. So I want to maintain that.
Well, we always got to be excellent and
Right.
three
Right.
times ahead anyway.
Right.
And so, and just going through that journey, and I mean, with your resilience and your success up to this point, I mean, do you ever think that there's going to be a time that this just has to stop and it's got to be what it's got to be?
You hope that. You would hope that. And I would have to say, these past few years have been, I don't know if it's revealing, surprising, disappointing, but we seem to be living in a time where objective facts don't matter. Everyone has their truth. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter, it seems. It's just their truth. Whether it's objectively true, factual, doesn't appear to be an important thing. decorum, respect, even at the highest office, doesn't seem to be a requirement anymore. If I can lie, steal, cheat, do all these things, and I can still maintain the highest office in the country, how am I going to tell a fourth grader they can't do those things? Where's the moral compass to guide the nation if that's not your character? That's a problem.
It is.
Well, it's a problem for me. I don't understand why it's not a problem for more people.
It's definitely a problem for me. And, as I get to this next question, I will say this. That's something that I would definitely love to have you on Final Word Friday, where we just chop it up and we talk about issues and so forth.
Right.
Because that's definitely for that show.
Okay. Okay.
How does your writing reflect your lived experiences?
Well, again, my writings have been so far memoirs. I am going to come out with my third book is going to be a book of basketball stories targeted to middle school and lower grade kids. So I am going to do a children book series, but my two books that are going to be memoirs are obviously they're personal. They're memoirs of personal journey. So I always try to weave in the stories of my personal life and my personal journey, positive and negative, the influence, the impact they can have. And I try to hope that those stories ring true to other people because they are true stories. And maybe it can touch their lives. It could be something similar to them or someone they've known. And it has an impact in a positive way to help guide them and help make them maybe miss some potholes that they could fall in that I fell in that they may have a chance to avoid.
Themes do you find yourself returning to again and again?
Perseverance, determination, commitment, hard work. Those themes are going to be in all of my books because those are my guiding principles. So I'm going to have those themes in all of the books I write because that's just not a story. That's my life. It's what's guided me. Is probably talk to my daughters. They'll tell you this: how I govern my family, my personal matters, and my professional. So those themes are going to be in all of my books and all of my writings.
Do you hope your books impact young readers or emerging professionals?
Both. That's why I've gone not only to college campuses and spoke with my books. I've gone to elementary schools. I've gone to middle schools. I've had an opportunity to go back to my old high school. So those were all opportunities to speak to different levels of people at different stages in their lives, because I think the story is relatable to all of that. My In My Brother's Shadow memoir, followed me from childhood to today. And I think it covered all those things. It's life growing up. It was life in a 250-page book. And so I think it was relatable to all those groups. I got some great questions. Matter of fact, some of the most inquisitive questions I got were at a middle school, Greenbelt Middle School here in Maryland. Some of the questions the students asked me were outstanding. I knew they were into the stories and impactful, and actually just invited me back. So I think I'm going back next month. So I've enjoyed that, and I think that all of the stories. Now the air traffic control journey is probably going to be a more higher, maybe not for the elementary, middle school kids, but definitely high school and beyond. So I think it's an important book as well.
Can you tell us how important is it for you that, and being an inspiration in the community, that people see you, for the work that you've done, how you got to be what you're doing, and how you're doing this persistence? How do you actually manage that? Because you want to show up to be the best that you are. How do you manage that?
I don't try to manage other people's expectations. I try to exceed the ones I set for myself. I try to be, like you said earlier, that emotional connection I have in any speaking engagement I give. I'm willing to talk to anyone. I'm walking through the airport and the custodian wants to talk to me. I'm going to talk to that person. I'm going to talk to the CEO. I'm going to stare him in his eye. I'm going to shake his hand. I'm going to be firm. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be truthful, but I'm always going to be me. And I don't try to manage other people's expectations. I just try to exceed my own.
Does storytelling play in healing, empowerment, or transformation?
I think it's healing / empowerment, because through that healing, you find empowerment to overcome obstacles. That was my journey. That was my story to heal from an incident that I didn't really realize how impactful it was on my life until I started writing the book. When I started writing the book, I started remembering things that I didn't really recall. One of them being, I remember after I found out about my brother. Again, I was a freshman in college, so I was 18 years of age, and I was going to go on a date. I had a date scheduled to go on, and I went to pick up the young lady to go on this date, and I'm meeting her parents, and meeting her parents, we're in the family room, a TV room, and her mother or her father said, "So, what's your major, and what's your name, and what's your last name? What church did your family go to?" And they asked those questions. And then the dad goes, Worthington. I've heard that name. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, the guy that was arrested, do you know the guy? And I didn't think about the question. I just answered the question. And I was like, yeah, it's my brother. But I remember the response. You could hear a pin drop. Everything got so quiet. It was like, okay, I don't even recall if we went on the date or not. I'm not sure we went on the date. But I remember going back to the school and going back to the college, and I would sit up in the lounge or in the cafeteria, and if the news came on TV and that story was on the TV, I felt like everybody was watching me. I had done anything wrong, but I felt if everyone was watching me. And I don't know if that had an impact on me not doing my classwork and losing my scholarship and wanting to leave. And I left and went to Germany for 3 years. I didn't think about that until I wrote the book, and it brought those thoughts back up.
You approach writing as both a craft and a responsibility.
I approach it certainly as a craft, because it's a goal of mine to be impactful to the people that read my books. So I try to be as honest as possible in my writings. So I think it's a craft in that way, but the empowerment part of it is to let them know that the human spirit is capable of overcoming anything. And whatever path, whatever journey you take, whatever things you think are holding you back, you can't overcome them, you can. And I want that message in all of the writings that I give.
Authors or thinkers have influenced your voice?
Wow. I'm going to say something that's probably going to be surprising to you. I was a big Terry McMillan fan. I used to love all Terry McMillan's books. I read them all. And I remember when they would start to make them into movies, I would get upset with the cast. I didn't like the cast because I had a vision in my head already about who the movies were. I used to read Michael Bason's books. I actually had a chance to be on a panel with him in Orlando, Florida, and then for some reason he didn't show up. I think he had a conflict in schedule. He didn't show up. I like Michael Bason. I like to read history books. I like to know not just the cover of our history, but the in-depth of it, the stories that we don't know about. Obviously, the Alex Haley's book, Malcolm X's autobiography was my all-time favorite. I read it several times. So I like history books. I like books that tell the stories that are impactful and that are real life. And again, I love our stories. I love our stories because so many times in school we didn't get a chance to have our stories told to us. So I like to go back and read those things. And I love history.
And just thinking about that, but just to follow up on that, when you think about our stories and the things that resonate so much or so clearly for a lot of us when we can hear and see our stories, what do you think about this situation now with the schools and the books that they're banning? I mean, like, do you think that could actually happen to your book?
Well, I thought about it because Jewel Academy in Florida is a middle school, a charter middle school in Florida, and the principal and founder is a personal friend of mine. And I went to the school to speak to the students about it, and he bought several sets of my book, classroom sets. I think the classroom sets are like 25 per class. So he bought several classroom sets for the book. And I didn't know if people were going to be able to complete that purchase, because I was thinking about, okay, it's Florida, they're banning books. And I'd had a friend that was an author who had done a children's book of the Tuskegee Airmen, and it got banned. But it's been over a year. He hasn't called me and said, hey, gotta send these books back. I can't give them out. So I'm assuming they didn't ban them, but it's concerning to have someone ban a book because of the history that it's telling. Given the fact there are so many things out there are false, why would you want to get rid of real history? Unless you have a reason to hide. And I think for some folks, they have a reason to hide. So I don't think it's right. I think history, as ugly as it can be, as horrible as it can be, needs to be told. People should be informed, not just because you want to learn what someone did bad. It's just because this is what we don't want to be repeated. And we just can't pick out the good things that we like to hear about. We have to know about those bad, horrible things as well, because that's all a part of our history. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate about the book bannings. I've talked to educators about it, and some of them are obviously quite frustrated by it, and it's causing them to lose some very, very good educators. They're saying, I can't do this anymore. This is no longer about teaching kids. It's about something else. And that's unfortunate.
Work as an analyst inform your writing style or structure?
Okay, I missed the top of that again. You're cut out.
How does your work as an analyst inform your writing style or structure?
Well, I'm not sure if it informs my writing style, but structure. I mean, obviously, as an analyst, you have to be very meticulous. You're doing things a certain way. As a researcher, when I did my doc study, I developed certain techniques I use as a researcher, and I apply those to my writing. No, I don't. I try to outline my book prior to writing my book. So I have the complete outline of the preface, chapter 1 through whatever chapters I'm going to finish at, and I outline the entire thing. And I go back in and I subtitle those and I subchapter those and I put the notes in, and then I go to my computer and I sticky note everything up and I tape them around, I move them around, and it sounds chaotic, but it's very strategic and it's very analytical in how I do it, and it comes together, and it's worked for me.
Do something a little bit similar to that with my writing as well, because anything else, I find that to be disorganized. But that's an organized way that
I don't know if I could sit down in front of a monitor and just type on a blank paper and just type. I don't know if I could do that. That's not my style. I'm sure there are people who do a great job of doing it that way. I haven't. I don't think I could do it. I haven't tried, but I don't think I could do it that way.
What's the most meaningful feedback you've received from a reader?
The most meaningful feedback I received from a reader. Because I grew up in Orlando, Florida, I was really overjoyed to see that so many of the people who I grew up with was buying the book and they read the book. And one of the characters in the book, I got a chance to speak with him. I hadn't spoken with him in probably 25 years, if not more. And someone called me and gave him the phone. I told him, I said, man, I've been looking for him. I hadn't spoken with him. It was one of the guys we used to call the big boys, who had taken time out to just mentor me, with me being years younger than him. And I hadn't spoken with him in a long time. So someone put him on the phone with me. He goes, hey, man, it's great to hear your voice. And, I'm reading this book, and I said, well, I'm glad you have the book. Send me your address and I'll send you an autographed copy of the book. He said he was going to do that. And he did. And I said, I got a question for you. So I know you're not going to go to Amazon and give me a feedback on Amazon, but right now, tell me what you think about the book. He goes, you know what? I feel like I'm living in Griffin Park all over again. And that's exactly what I wanted people to feel like they grew up in that era, who grew up in that projects and remembered what it was. And he goes, I felt like I was living in Griffin Park all over again. And I've gotten some great feedback, but that one was the one that stood out to me because it was from a guy who was there from the very beginning. I think I was 9 years old when I met him. And now, and all these years later, that book, he said, made him feel like he was living there all over again.
You know what? That's a great piece of writing, because once you can read and visualize the whole entire picture, you're there.
That was that was what I was going for. That was sort of what I was hoping for. I just didn't know if I was going to be able to pull that off. But coming from someone who lived the life and grew up there to be able to get that and feel that way about it, it was very satisfying. I felt like, okay, you know what? That's what I was hoping to achieve. And now that's confirmation that I was able to do that.
Future writing projects are you excited about?
I'm really excited about Flight Path. I'm looking forward to doing the journey of Black Air Traffic Controller. I've had some interesting conversations when I've interviewed old coworkers, and we had some laugh about it, some disagreements about some memories. But it was fun. It was, catching up and doing those things. So I'm really excited to get that book out there. And also, as I'm developing characters for my children's book, a former teammate in college and stuff who's now an artist, he lives in South Florida. He's going to develop these characters for me. So I've been giving him descriptions of characters, and he's come up with these cartoon character drawings for me. I'm excited about my children's books about basketball journeys. So there are a few things I'm excited about.
Transition over to your work as an aeronautical data analyst. For those unfamiliar, what exactly does an aeronautical data analyst do?
Right. In the field of aviation, obviously, people know what a pilot is. They think they know what an air traffic controller is. A lot of times they get them confused with the transit people. But an analyst, basically, there is so much data involved in an aviation report or record. If you go to an airport, you'll see a runway. That runway has certain lengths. It could be 10,000 feet. It could be 7,000 feet in length. It could be 200 feet in width. Those things, those aren't just numbers. The number of the runways, 1836, they're all aligned with the compass. Okay. But it has to be gauged and measured at a certain degree that it's within tolerance, which is less than 3 feet. You have the elevation of the airport. You have the slope of the airport. You have the slope of the lights. All those are data points and numbers that have to be added up, and they have to be verified and flight checked by another pilot that comes in and check it. As an analyst, you analyze all that data and make sure that it's within tolerance, it's within safety rules, there are no violations of it. And if it is a violation, it has to be corrected either by shutting the airport down or shutting that runway down until it's actually checked and verified and it's safe to actually operate for departures and arrivals.
Wow. So you're saying then your work goes beyond the actual part of the aeronautical part where the planes are in the sky. That's everything surrounding the security part.
Absolutely, as well. Because usually when you're doing the analysis, depending on which, because you could be in airspace, or you can be in airways, or you can be in airports. So each of those different areas in analyst are 3 different things you're doing, 3 different jobs. So you can be in airways where you have you have navigational guides. There are points that the planes are getting a signal off of, and they're flying to those different points. And so if you're an analyst doing the navies, you're actually verifying those signals are giving the right signal. There's not a malfunction. There's not a miss signal that's sending the plane in one direction and another plane in the opposite direction, but they're going to collide with each other. If you're in airspace, it's the different same type thing. Airports, it's the same type thing, except now on the airports, you're dealing with everything that's happening on the ground. All that data and stuff from the elevation of the airport to the runway distance, to the runway width, to the taxiways, all of them being aligned with the compass, all that is included in doing your job. It's a fantastic job. It's obviously a lot of coordination, a lot of numbers. With the new digital stuff coming in, a lot of things that we used to do years ago, you have to write it down and use a calculator. Now it calculates in the computers for you. So it's just maintaining a safe environment to operate aircraft and air operations. And you're doing your part and stuff. The pilots are doing their part, and the controllers are doing their jobs. So it all runs together.
Drew you to this highly technical and specialized field?
What drew me to it? It was just a progression. Again, I started out as an air traffic controller. I've been an air traffic controller for a decade. As you move into different career fields, you go to airport management. I developed the flight line driving program at the Space Shuttle landing facility when the space shuttles were still operational. That was exciting at the time I did it. And the opportunity to get back into air traffic is probably going to present itself sometime in the next month. I'm looking forward to that opportunity to do that. Not back in the control tower, but back in the air traffic subject matter expert position. But it's the excitement of the job. Aviation is very exciting to me. And being an analyst is just that other half of what's happening in the control tower, in the airport field. But it's all aviation. It's all very, very exciting to me. I like being around it.
Tribute to aviation safety and efficiency.
Yeah, you broke out again in that beginning of that.
How does your work contribute to aviation safety and efficiency?
Well, deficiency itself is one of those things where anytime you're having humans do things, there's a human error factor that's always involved here. But the proficiency, again, it's aviation safety. We all have a job to do in aviation, whether it's the air traffic controller, whether it's the pilot, whether it's the flight attendant, the flight service station people, or the analyst. That data that the pilot is going to receive, that the air traffic controller is going to rely on, is coming from my office. It has to be accurate. They're dependent on it. They're counting on it. They're relying on it. So therefore, when you get some data, it's your job to verify and validate it, collect it, make sure it's the correct data. Because sometimes when it comes in, it's not correct. So you have to go do your job and make sure that that data that you're collecting, that someone is submitting in, saying this is our right data at this airport, is the correct data. And sometimes it's not, because again, people type things wrong. They do a wrong reading. And we have that checks and balance where someone is always checking on what that other person is doing. Now, again, with a lot of the automated systems, they can do an internal check, but then of course, a human being is inputting that data in there. So you have to verify it and validate it. And it's very important. And again, we all have a different job to do to ensure aviation safety. So I don't think my job is any more important or less important than the pilots, or any more important or less important than the controller, or the grounds person that's pushing the airplane back from the plane, because we all have a job to ensure aviation safety.
What skills are essential for success in aeronautical data analysis?
Having a good memory. Again, sometimes when you're doing a lot of data, we always have two monitors up and they're open. You get a lot of information. So you have to organization is important. You have to be able to organize all the data that you're getting. You have to be able to validate and collect it, and knowing where you have to go to recheck it. So there's a lot of databases. There are a lot of validation. There are a lot of coordination. All those things have to be done, and they have to be done in a timely period, because again, everything has a next person has to get it. So you have to do it pretty quickly.
You know, as we think about this, and you know where the world is going today, and I'm sure this is the million-dollar question that people want to hear. How is it that, how are you guys dealing with the AI situation, and is AI doing as much as people think it is?
It's coming to do as much as people think it's going to be. For us, I'm going to say just for me, for how we're handling it is that I was actually in an AI training today. Lots of training, lots of making yourself aware of what's coming, what's the capabilities, what's the limitations, what's the potential risks, understanding machine learning, understanding how it's going to impact your job as far as making your job more efficient, making you more able to do your job at a faster rate, not replacing you, but making you feel like you might be replaceable. So it's one of those things that we know it's coming. And it's just like when Blockbuster was holding on to the VHS and not wanting to go to the DVD. You have to prepare for it. It's coming. So lots of training right now in AI in our office. A lot of us are doing the training in management, and it's just one of those things that we know it's coming, and we have to continue to prepare for it and be ready for it. Hopefully, it doesn't cost all of us our jobs. But that's definitely that's a fear and that's a risk.
Yeah, yes. I was going to say that's my next question. Is that does that mean that you know, the thing that people keep mentioning, that they're going to be that you guys are going to be losing jobs and it's completely taking over, or is it that the top AI specialists get to stay there and watch the AI?
Right. Well, a lot of the AI people who are programming are going to be doing just that. But as far as in aviation, like, you know, they're rebuilding the NAS system. Now, the National Aerospace System is being revamped and being modernized, as they say. So they're making a lot of the stuff that was basically old 1980s stuff be replaced by new digital stuff that are all talking to one another, all talking to each computer is talking to the other computer, and things that are happening where you had to wait for it to come on a teleline or whatever 10 years ago is going to instantaneously transport to this next person. It's going to be digitized. You're going to see lots of different lights, lots of different numbers flashing up, and they're all going to mean something. And as of right now, you know, again, I'm in a training course right now. It's going to last this entire week, as a matter of fact. But it's something that you have to decide whether, hey, you know what, I don't want to relearn anything. But if you do that, it's going to move past you because it is coming.
Well, I got a couple of questions for you here in the chat.
Okay.
First question is, it's just LinkedIn user. It says, I'm interested in knowing how old was your brother when the crime was committed? Your story of your brother is one that is told often about Black young men.
He was 19. My brother was 19 when he was arrested.
Okay. And his second question here is, our stories are a gift to the world. And I believe everyone has at least one book in them. We all have moments when we want to hide in a corner and cry. Our dreams seem buried, and our outlook on life isn't getting any better. Usually, all we need is a kick or a push to motivate us. Sometimes that push comes from a family member or friend. Other times, that push comes from a story, someone else's story, in a book that says we aren't alone in the journey, and and here is how you can get through it.
Was that a question for me, or was it just a statement of? I mean, I believe that's true. That's a true statement. I mean, your journey and your opportunities to success can be a push by someone else. It could be a push you weren't even aware you were pushed, and it can also could be a result of your own failures. That's what I thought happened to me. But my brother's arrest certainly was something that impacted my life, and that tragedy and that negative became the push that made me go like, look, I got to go do things that he's never going to be able to do. And like I said, I've been in Germany and Guam and Japan and China and all around the world. And I would always step away and just take a moment to just go look at things to say, I'm looking at this from my eyes to his because he's never going to see them. So there's certainly truthfulness to that. Those stories can be impactful.
So, how do you stay focused and precise in a field where errors can have major consequences?
Repetition. Continue to, I mean, again, I remember being in air traffic control school, and one of the instructors told us that, no, I can't teach you what to say. I can just tell you what to say. So tell you when to say it. So when I come up here and say, go, and you got this plane coming down at 500 miles per hour, another plane coming the opposite direction, another one on the runway, another one calling you up for takeoff, what are you going to do? I can't tell you what to do. I'm just going to say, it's time to go. Now you got to start going. So what's required of you is to study your craft, to be dedicated in it, that I need to know certain things. And if I know what I need to know, it's up to me to get that knowledge. And I have to practice it until I'm so precise at it that although I may make a minimum error, I can correct it enough where it's not impactful, that it's catastrophic and someone loses their life.
Innovations or changes in aviation excite you the most?
I really am looking forward to how AI will be incorporated into the aviation system. The NAS system is being rebuilt. There are so many things that are happening now that I remember when we had to do them manually, and now they're going to be done like digitalized and computerized, and it's going to make the controller's job more, I guess it's more things for you to learn, but it's going to make it so much easier to control your traffic patterns and how you separate your aircraft. You're going to be able to see them quicker, better. They're going to line up for you better. Some of the flight information we would get, there were times it was just bogged down. And there were even times you had physical flight strips you had to move around. Those things are all going to be digitized now. Your communication with one particular whether it's the control tower or the radar facility or the Tricon, they're all going to be having a different communication set coming now. It's exciting. I think it's like, again, all those movies we watched as kids about space is going to start becoming realistic in real world life.
You navigate being one of the few Black professionals in your field?
How do I navigate it?
Yeah.
Again, I don't focus on trying to make someone else think that I'm representing all of us, although I try to represent all of us with excellence. That's my own expectation of myself. So when I navigate it, I'm walking into a room. If there's something I don't know, it's my responsibility to go find out what I don't know and rectify that problem. It's not someone else's expectation of me that I'm going to do it. It's the expectation I have of myself that I'm going to do it. So I try to, again, as I said earlier, represent with excellence. That requires hard work and dedication and commitment. But again, it's only hard if that's not your normal. I've made that my normal.
You know, that's something, you know, just as you just think about that. My thing is that I know that, you know, with you having your parameters and you making sure you're doing what you got to do. I mean, do you not sometimes like think subconsciously about, you know, like what's actually happening that you don't see?
Sure. I mean, because you have to. I mean, you have to think, again, that's the background of, you know, being in the control facility. There are things that you're trying to do because there's sometimes, let me see, how can I do a scenario where if you're in the control tower and you're talking to 5 planes, 6 planes, and then a 7th or 8th plane pops up on you and just start talking to you. That's not what's supposed to happen. So you have to think really, really quickly to maneuver, because if you respond to that pilot,
Wow.
he can't enter your airspace until you respond to him. This is in the control tower environment. So he's
Right.
basically coming in. He can't come within that 5-mile window of your airspace unless you acknowledge him. Acknowledging him is just saying stand by. If I say stand by to that plane, now I have 8 planes instead of 7, because now he's going to continue to come in and I've accepted responsibility for him. So now I got to maintain separation for him. If you don't make that communication, he has to circle, navigate that space, and he's going to maintain outside your space in a safe area. Then you create a window for him. Now, you have to know the rules of air traffic to know that you can do that. So you have to be prepared to do the things that you need to do at all times, and not everyone is going to do it. Even if you say, I got all these planes lined up, they're coming in a certain way. What if it doesn't work out? What's your out? What's your out to make sure that if this doesn't work, how do you get yourself out of it? So now I'm thinking ahead, because I'm gonna have to get myself out of this. Or the plane comes in and he's coming in to land and goes, Tyra, I'm going around. He takes back off. What's going to happen now? So you're thinking about that plan before it actually happens. And again, some people say, oh God, that's such a stressful job. I heard that a million times over the years. But for a controller who's done it for a long time, they'll probably all tell you that's just become part of the job. You're already preparing for that in your mind, that I just cleared this guy to land. He should be landing. I got the next guy coming. He's landing behind him. The next guy's coming. He's landing. And now I got another guy calling me to take off. How much window I'm going to have to get this guy out of here? And now some guy takes off lands on the runway and like, I can't turn off. I'm going to stay on the runway. So now you got to send people around. You got to change things up. So you have to be able to think quickly, get to know the rules and what are the restrictions you have and what are the maneuvers you have that is available to you to change that. That's in the control tower. If you're an airfield manager and you have a runway that has a plane that blows a tire on the runway and the airfield is closed, you got to get out there and get your team to clean the runway. If you're a data analyst and a pilot or airport manager submits a data for a runway that he says is 10,000 feet long, but with flight check, it's only 7,000, that stuff has to all be corrected. So again, that's why I say the aviation career field, whether you're in the airport tower, you're in the radar facility, you're an airport operations manager, or you're a data analyst, your job is very important. It's very, very challenging, and it's very, very fast-paced and exciting.
Would you give young people interested in STEM careers?
What should get them interested in it? I had this conversation with a group of high schoolers because I got that question a lot about, but isn't it hard? And that's when I went to them and said, okay, look, I'm just going to say this to you. This is how I feel about it. Don't let the fact that it's hard be a deterrent from you doing it. if you're passionate about it, and I was telling some of the young men, because I got a lot of young men asking me the question, and they were athletes. I said, is it hard to play your sport? I mean, you play football, you play basketball, you do track, but you practice that sport, right? Because you want to play it. If you're a musician, you play an instrument. You practice that instrument because you want to get better at it. The same thing in your career. It may be challenging, but you have the ability to say, you know what, I really want to do this. So I have to put that work in to overcome whatever challenges there are, or just to learn those different knowledge that I have to do the job. It requires some effort on your part.
Consulting training enhanced your work in aviation?
Well, I don't know if consulting training has enhanced my work as in aviation, but the business I'm looking at starting is probably going to be an aviation consulting company. And when I pursued my doctorate degree, I was in a consulting program. I was hoping it was going to be in aviation, but it was nothing available at the time I was doing it. So I was in a consulting program for developing a healthcare think tank. That was my dissertation. I had to develop a healthcare think tank, or develop the rules that will create a successful healthcare think tank. And in doing so, I had to act as if I was a consultant for a startup company, and how I can make sure that company would be successful, developing those rules, understanding the medical field regulations and restrictions, what will be some obstacles to starting that, what will be some advantages of starting it, and where you're starting that. So in doing that, it required the same type of dedication and commitment that you do as an analyst. You got to collect information, you have to organize it, you have to be able to disseminate it and coordinate with whoever you need to coordinate. All those things are similar, and they're the same.
The most rewarding part of your role?
Most rewarding part of
Your role as an aviation analyst.
my role, and again, I look at that as a totality, my entire aviation career. I really, truly have enjoyed it. And I think, and I've said this to numerous young people when I spoke at schools or whatever, air traffic control is the best job I've ever had. I've really enjoyed that job. I love the atmosphere. Yes, it's competitive. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's going to require you to study a lot. Yes, you're going to probably work shift work, but I've never had a job I felt so engaged at doing. I enjoyed so much. And there's sometimes it's going to kick your butt. It's going to really challenge you and test you, and you're going to lose the big picture, and somebody may have to pull you out of position that, hey, take a break downstairs and come back up when you get your head back together. But I've had far fewer of those incidents than I've had enjoyment of doing the job over the years, and working at the flight line, developing the space shuttle landing facility driving program for flight line drivers was unique. With the experience and stuff, I got a chance to be really up close at the space program there. That was enjoyable. I mean, just in my entire career in aviation, I've gone into NASA. I've gone onto the space shuttle. I got a chance to sit in the cockpit of the SR-71, which was one of our early age fighter jets, spy jets probably. So I've enjoyed it. It's been the most rewarding career. I don't have any regrets about it, and I would do it all over again.
Okay, let's transition here over to your community engagement and mentorship. Can you tell us what inspired you to create your basketball camp and mentoring program?
Just my history in basketball. Again, I played basketball throughout my from childhood to through high school to college, overseas in Europe, transitioning from there to becoming a coach, and it had such a positive impact on me as far as the lessons you learn from basketball, the discipline that required you to get good at it, dealing with losses and wins, maintaining a certain type of decorum, whether you were the victor or you were the loser. Those lessons I want to teach the kids like they were taught to me. That was my bridge into saying, look, I want to give back to what my community gave to me. And it was through basketball for the most part. And that's what I used to give back.
So, Peter, what's the importance to you? What's the importance of giving back?
It's paying it forward. It's a debt I feel, not a monetary debt, but a debt of people who poured into me when I was younger did not have to do so. They did it because they cared, and they was not going to get anything back on it other than what I was going to become as a young man and then later on as a full-grown adult. I hope to have that same impact. And that's the reason I do it. I enjoy doing it. It never seems too taxing to say, you know what, I want to talk to this young person about something that's doing different. And 90% of the time, I've had a great experience in the community activities I've involved myself in. And whether it's speaking to young people at a school environment or on the basketball court.
Your program differ from the traditional youth programs?
I don't know if it's necessarily differ, other than we have certain points we always try to give and we try to emphasize: dedication, commitment, honor, determination, and accountability. We always have, we would give awards out at our sports banquets. And we had this one award we call AIE, and it stood for Attitude is Everything. That's usually not the best basketball player on the team. That person is going to win the MVP or the best offensive player. Our attitude is everything is that kid that probably didn't get in the game very much. He sat on the end of the bench. He got in when the game was over, but he came to every practice. He was one of our top GPA students on the team in the school on the academics. And it's very, very difficult to come participate in a sport when you know I'm not good enough to play, but I'm still there. I'm cheering my teammates on. The other kids are probably going to talk at you and they're going to pick at you, but you still came anyway. That's attitude is everything, because that person has that preservation and that just the resolve in them that I'm just going to keep going. And then later on, they'll come out and say, God, I was going to quit, but I'm so glad I didn't quit. And I say, I'm glad you didn't quit either. And you've earned this award, because it's hard to be participating in something that you're not the starter. You're not one of the better athletes. You're just a part of the team. But that's an important role as well. And you did it with an attitude that showed that, you know what, I'm here for the team. Maybe not my personal glory, but for the team.
I like that. And I like the way that you crafted that. I mean, I'm going to have to use that sometimes. Really. Because, as you just think about that and you write about the players that don't get the opportunity to play a lot, but they do deserve something, because they came to practice every day,
right?
And they really wanted to do this, but they just weren't good enough, at least as it was said. But I really do like that, and I want to use that sometimes, because I think there are a lot of situations just in dealing with people sometimes that especially if you deal with them a whole lot. I mean, I want them to know a whole lot more that this is why it's good and why I appreciate them, and that's one of the ways I think of showing some inspiration and some motivation as well. Mm-hmm. What does holistic development mean to you?
Holistic development means that you're not focusing on one particular area that you just may be strong at. It's easy to do that. It's very easy to be focused on what you're very, very good at. But we try to make sure when you say holistic, I want you to focus on the things you're not very good at, because that's something that you may not know you have that blind spot because you're not very good at seeing it. So you have to be holistic in advancing whatever your thought process is, whatever you're trying to achieve. If I can do something with my right hand because I'm right-handed, I'm very, very good at that, and I just continue to do it every day with my right hand, I don't know the weakness I have in my left hand. I'm not even attempting to use it. Therefore, that's something that I'm never going to develop. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take the right hand, I'm going to tie it behind your back. You're only using the left hand. Because at some point, your life and your ability is going to have to be more than just what you're good at. It's going to require you sometimes to say, you know what, I may have to take a back seat. I may have to learn from Charles. I may have to learn a different skill here. And I have to be okay with that as well. Sometimes being a leader requires you to be a very good follower sometimes. And obviously, I don't know, I can't make too many leadership points today because it seems like it's lacking. But it used to be an important thing.
Still important. It's just not important.
It's Charles is hard. When I go to some of these schools, again, kids can be so honest when they say things, and they just speak about what they see and what they hear. And when adults are making excuses for certain type of behavior, children still hear it. And they know when their parents tell them about, hey, don't tell a lie, don't steal, don't cheat. But, well, how do you explain that? But yet you have people making excuses for that type of behavior and that type of character or lack thereof. And it's having an impact on our nation. It's having an impact on our nation. And I hope that, some of the guest speakers that you have on and the work that you do and so many of the educators in this country are able to maintain strength and not give up and just say, I'm just going to throw my hands up. This is ridiculous. I don't know what's happening. Because I know they may feel that way. They may feel that way because it sometimes seems like an undaunting task to have someone say things that are completely false and have someone go, yeah, but they didn't mean that. Well, they wouldn't have said it if they didn't mean it. So they obviously meant it. And then when you speak to young people and you talk with them and they repeat those things to you, like, well, what about this? Well, you're like, okay, I don't know. I can't defend that. Nor should I try to. I should just tell you that's not the way it's supposed to be. And of course, then we get back down to the things that we have these two different systems of standards we have in this country. And unfortunately and stuff, there are some folks that behavior would destroy their career. You couldn't work at 7-Eleven as a clerk at the cash register if your behavior was that. Yet someone else's behavior could allow them to have a position in the White House. And I think that's detrimental to the country, and I think it's detrimental to our youth. And I hope that the better angels of this country and the people that are going to run it rise up and stand on some character and some meaningful things that I remember watching the MLK sequence on TV, the different programs that were programming, and Dr. King's daughter, I think it's Bernice.
Yep.
Bernice King, I think she was speaking about it, and she was addressing the congregation and just having her platform. And I remember her saying that, because everybody's DEI, somehow our discrimination and our unfair treatment became a gift to us. And things that have been given to people of color is because they don't deserve it. They didn't earn it. DEI is providing this opportunity for you. And she was saying, for the people who don't understand this, the civil rights law or bill was not a special gift to Black people. It outlawed discrimination against all people.
Yep.
That's what it did. And somehow some people have been able to take that and twist it in a different ring, in a different form. And then that's where you get into that thing about, well, it's my truth, so it doesn't matter. Well, it absolutely does matter. Your truth has to be truth for it to matter. And unfortunately, too many times that's not the case today. And I think that's because we seem to be devoid of leadership at the very top.
Yep. What are the biggest challenges facing young people today?
Well, I think, and I'm basing on my personal observation and stuff. See, I talk about this when I talk to young people about not just obstacles, because we're all going to have something we don't have to overcome. There are going to be unfair opportunities or unfair things in life as well. But I think the biggest thing that's holding us back or can hold us back is a lack of accountability for your personal behavior. If you can't hold yourself accountable, and accountability meaning even if you have to set your alarm in the morning to get up and you don't get up and hit your snooze button 5 times, now you're late for work and you get fired, you're mad with the boss for firing you, but wait a second, you're late for work and you had your alarm set, but you hit the snooze button. Personal accountability is important. Lacking discipline as an adult is one of the worst things you can have, and it's a detriment to success. You have to be a disciplined person. As a younger person, you have parents to guide you, you have a little bit more leeway. As you become an emerging adult, meaning you're in the college age frame, you're getting a little bit more responsibilities, and that accountability needs to start kicking in. Once you're in the real world, in the workforce, the working, a lack of discipline, it's a detonating bomb into your ability to be successful. You have to be disciplined in the goals you want to set for yourself and how you go about achieving them, how you go about dealing with what you consider unfair things, even if it is unfair. You have to have enough discipline to say, you know what, I know how I'm gonna move around this now, because in the career I've chosen, in the atmosphere I work in, I think we're less than 10% of that force. So you have to be disciplined and strategic about how you move around.
So we do Black History 365. And when we chatted, and I asked you who were the most influential person or persons in your life and career in Black history, you told me it was Malcolm X and the Tuskegee Airmen. Can you tell us, why does Malcolm X stand as one of the most influential figures in your life?
Um, the first real big book of substance I read was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And prior to that, in my growing up, my family, in my household, it wasn't Malcolm X. We had a picture of Dr. King in our house, but not of Malcolm X. In school, growing up, very little was mentioned about Malcolm X, a lot more about Dr. King. But when I got a chance to read that story from Alex Haley, and just like you were saying about being able to visualize the story, I was able to visualize a person that was fearless, someone that was disciplined. And although initially having some beliefs that proved to be wrong, he was able to reinvent himself and come back and say, I'm dedicated and committed to learning, developing myself, and being a disciplined human being. And that's what he did. And he was fearless. He was powerful in how he spoke. He was articulate in how he was able to express his opinions and his thoughts. And unfortunately, his life was cut short. But he was like, it was the first time I saw someone that I want to be like that person. And it wasn't because of the suit or the glasses or the hat. It was because of his voice was so powerful, and the way he spoke truth to power, and the way he would tell things. But again, the message was he was self-taught. He taught himself. He had enough discipline to learn the things he did not know. That was impactful, and I related to that, and I was moved by that.
Aspects of Malcolm's philosophy resonate most deeply with your personal mission?
Excellence, being your excellence. And again, there is no shortcut to being excellent. There's only one way to do that. That requires you to be dedicated to something, committed to it, being resilient, overcoming some failures, because sometimes we have to learn from those failures. But that excellence is the goal, not average. Excellence is the goal.
How has Malcolm X shaped your approach to discipline, clarity, and self-determination?
Um, his goals and his life through learning it through the reading of the autobiography of Malcolm X, and then I read the FBI files on Malcolm X, and of course Spike Lee's movie starring Denzel Washington also contributed to some of that knowledge. And as I continue to create this full circle of who this man was with reading all the things I was reading, when they finally unredacted some of the FBI files and released them, I read some of those, and it just reinforced what I already thought I knew. This was a person who had a goal of being the very best he could be, a goal of loving the people that he loved because they were just being excellent. Not saying that he didn't have any flaws, because we all have faults. So I'm certainly sure we could point out some of the ones he did have, but he was not deterred by those faults. He was determined to overcome those shortcomings and strive towards excellence.
Make that difference.
Yeah.
What the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen mean to you as a professional in aviation?
They were the standard. They set the standard as being one of the top, if not the very top, firefighters we had in World War II. I don't know if you can see. I have pictures. They're my screensaver, and it was all because of the fact that regardless of whatever challenge was put before them, many of them unfair, they overcame them because their goal wasn't just to get by. Their goal was to exceed the standards, and they exceeded them all the time. I know Lee Archer is passed now, and he's no longer with us, but I remember being really excited about the possibility that he would finally be given an ace, a fighter that had at least 6 kills in war. But because of the color of his skin and the times he lived in, they made some of his kills a half a kill. Therefore, he never got the 6 that would have given him a fighter ace. He should have been an ace. I hope that comes back up. It won't happen in the next 3 years, I'm sure. But sometime after that time frame, I hope it comes back up and he's given the honor that he earned and he deserved. The Tuskegee Airmen were just incredible achievers. Some people say overachievers, but it was through dedication and a desire to prove a point that we were not without brain power or talents or skills to do a job that these people thought we could not do because of the color of our skins. Even changing the time they were supposed to report for calls of they got flight duty and you're supposed to be there at 5 a.m. and they would change the time on them, just making things unfair. So instead of saying, you know what, that's just not fair, they just showed up at 3 a.m.
Wow. How have the airmen influenced your commitment to excellence and precision?
I'm not sure they've influenced that. It's just a mindset. It's a mindset of saying, I'm going to be committed to doing something and getting up in the morning and going to the gym at 7 o'clock in the morning if you don't have to get out of bed. You have to have enough discipline to get out of that bed and go to that gym because you're not going every day you want to go to that gym. Sometimes you don't feel like going and you go anyway. That's what I mean by maintaining discipline and dedication and commitment to saying, I want to be a healthy person. I want to be physically fit enough to do the things I want to enjoy. That is the same mindset of excellence. It requires some uncomfortable choices on your part to say, you know what, I'm tired. I don't want to go today. And you do it anyway. Reading the extra chapter in a book about a job you have to do tomorrow, and you know you have to do it. You're going to be there at work. Are you going to be prepared or not be prepared? You know what? I'm tired. I'm going to bed. And you're going to that meeting the next day not being prepared. That's a lack of discipline. Versus saying, you know what? I'm going to get a cup of coffee. I'm going to stay up another 2 hours. I'm going to go in that meeting tomorrow prepared. That's a choice.
And final question for you.
Yes.
What parallels do you see between their courage and your own journey?
Not allowing someone else's low opinion of my skin color to deter me from being the very best I can be. That's what the Tuskegee Airmen did. And I think that's an important lesson because it's one of the lessons I'm actually going to have in my flight path book, because there are some people who have that low expectation of us about, well, you know, look at you, you know, and they're saying that in a negative way. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to do certain things. The Tuskegee Airmen became fighter pilots and, you know, the most requested escort of fighter bombers in the World War II because they were so good at what they did. Initially, they didn't even want them to get in the plane. They overcame all of that when lives depended on it. Pilots requested them.
In closing, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement you'd like to leave for our audience, including how they can connect with you via your social media? They can check out your website, they can check out your books, all of those good things.
I was gonna say this to you earlier. When I would speak at some of my basketball award camps. Because you're telling kids all these different stories about the things they can do and what they can't do, and the opportunities to do these things. And sometimes, like one of your guests asked earlier about that unknown push that you get. You know, and there was a story I was telling you. You guys all watch the dragon movies now, and you're watching the HBO series Game of Thrones. You guys love dragons, and so in medieval times there was a great wise king, and this king felt like, my time is coming. I need a great warrior to stand up and take over my kingdom for me. So he gathered their entire town together and he had a proclamation. He told the town that the most bravest warrior in this group, I want you to jump in this river of water with waves that will pull up to 6, 7, 8 feet high and swim from one side to the other side. If you're able to do that, you would inherit the kingdom when I'm gone, and you will be win the hand of my daughter in marriage. You would rule this entire kingdom. If there's one brave warrior that would do this and can succeed, who among you would stand out and take this challenge? No one stepped up. And some people start backing up. They were afraid to jump in that water. That's how high the waves were. It was also crocodile infested. All of a sudden, you hear a splash. Someone actually jumped in. And this young man is swimming, and he's swimming, and the crowd starts cheering him on. And as he's getting close to the other side of the edge, a crocodile starts closing in on him. And right when he gets there, the king reaches down and pulls him up. He made it to the other side. The crowd roared in approval. The king held his hand high. Everybody's roaring and clapping. And the young man, he's out of breath. He's trying to catch his breath. And the king just proclaimed, this great warrior, this brave man, he swam across this water and made it to the other side. He will inherit my kingdom. He will marry my daughter. Brave warrior. Right now, if there's anything I can do for you, please ask. It will be your wish. He goes, oh, wow. He goes, great king, you are a great and wise king. Your daughter is beautiful indeed. This is a beautiful kingdom. But all I want is to know who the hell pushed me in the water and got me in the river. So that brave man wasn't so brave. He did what he had to do to get out of that water. So someone challenged him with bravery by pushing him in the water. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I look forward to doing it again. And for your audience, I really appreciate the time we have together.
Okay. This last, there's another comment here that Mr. Allen says, great answer to one of the questions that we were talking about in Black history.
Frank Allen, Pop. That's one of the guys from the old neighborhood.
Okay. So before closing, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you for being here. And I definitely, I'm pulling for, your second book being as successful as the first, and all of these great endeavors that you're about to, tread on. I'm sure that you're going to be successful because,
thank you.
With the resilience that you are, letting everyone see, and all this stuff, all the good things that you are doing, success is just inevitable for you.
I appreciate your words. Thanks so much, Charles. Again, thank you for having me on.
So in closing, Dr. Worthington, your story is a testament to what happens when brilliance meets purpose. You remind us that excellence is not confined to one arena. It can soar through the skies, uplift a community, and shape the next generation all at once. Your work honors the legacy of Malcolm X, who taught us to think boldly and act with intention. It honors the Tuskegee Airmen, who proved that discipline, courage, and mastery can break any barrier. Tonight, you've shown us that leadership is not just about what you do, it's about who you lift, who you teach, and who you inspire. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your vision. And thank you for continuing to work the work of building a future where young people know their worth, their power, and their limitless potential. This has been America in Black and White. I'm your host, Charles King. Good night and keep rising. And we will see you guys tomorrow night for another great show. For those of you that are watching on all of our channels, including our YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed and enabled all notifications, I would appreciate the support. If you guys could do that, and you could just support us by just subscribing, please. We thank you for that. Again, you guys have a great evening. We will see you tomorrow evening for another great show.